Hello and welcome to Todd Talk, where insight meets inspiration. I'm your host, Todd Hiller, and I'm an author, speaker, and longtime community leader, here to guide you on a journey towards fulfillment and balance. In every episode, we'll explore ways to fill life's emptiness, helping you uncover practical tools to create harmony, purpose, and happiness. Whether it's thriving in your career, nurturing personal growth, or simply finding joy in the everyday, Todd Talk is your space for real conversations and actionable advice. So let's thrive together, personally, professionally, and beyond. This is Todd Talk, and I'm thrilled to have you here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Todd Talk. Today's episode is about the seasons in your life and learning to embrace the change of the seasons and not fear them, and learning that when they change, that's okay and that's a good thing, and it can be a refreshing thing, and it can be a welcome walk and a welcome change to an otherwise busy season or a busy life. So let's dive in, let's buckle up and talk about the seasons of my life, the seasons of your life, and how we can look at them maybe a little differently and enjoy the changing. So the other day I was putting my rototiller in the back of the shed. It's done with rototilling season. The garden's all planted and in full swing. So the rototiller goes in the back corner and gets all cleaned off, and then eventually I'll put the snowblower back out when it gets to be wintertime. And, I got thinking, man, it just feels like I just put the snowblower away not that long ago, and here it is, almost August 1st, and I'm putting the rototiller away, and pretty soon it will be time to get the snowblower back out again, and it seems like it happens that fast. And, I also got thinking now the kids go back to school soon, and it feels like summer just started, and it also feels like summer has been ongoing all at the same time. And I want you to stop and think for a minute because, I thought of this, and the changing of the seasons brings about big emotions for me, especially the fall. And so we'll talk about that real quick. So going back to college, going back to school, in my heart and my soul, I can literally feel and still remember what it feels like, even though it's been so many years. I remember the smells and the sights and the sounds and what it felt like to walk back down the driveway at the farm and get on the bus for that first day or the first week of school. And it's something that has stuck with me all these years. And I remember my dad saying years ago that he hated Sundays and he hated fall when I was in college because it meant that my brother and I left again after being home all summer. And it made him sad that we were gone. So, he always said, I hate fall. And he doesn't really, but it was just that kind of sentiment that he hated the fall because it was the end of my brother and I being home, and it was the end of that season. And so that made me think, and it made me stop to think, what if we stopped fearing the end of a season and started trusting what it might be making room for? Now, in the physical sense, when seasons change, it makes room for different things, different weather, different pace of life, different sports, if you have kids that play sports or you play sports yourself. So there's lots of things that change physically when the seasons change. I am lucky enough to live in a beautiful part of New England where the leaves change, and we have some of the most beautiful foliage on the face of the earth anywhere. And that's a physical thing and a reminder, and this is one of the reasons I love fall, is that it feels transformative for me all at the same time, or all while it also feels like it's giving room for something else, a quieter time. The slow season, the winter season, the quiet time to sit inside and read by the wood stove on those snowy days, or not have to worry about mowing the lawn every week, or all that kind of stuff that kind of tapers off and tapers back a little bit in the wintertime. So there's so much feeling attached to the seasons of our lives, the physical ones and the ones that are, brought on by nature in the outdoors. But I think there are also so many big feelings about the seasons in our lives, when they start, when they stop, when they change. Sometimes they change unexpectedly. That's the nice thing we have about the calendar. We know when seasons are going to change thereabouts, give or take in the terms of the weather. Where I live in New England, we kind of get, these 3 or 4 month chunks where we know what's going to happen with the weather and know what's going to go on for the most part. Sometimes New England weather can be pretty wacky. But we know what to expect and we know when to expect a change. But it's not like that with life sometimes. Sometimes we're happily cruising along in the summertime of life with the windows down and we're doing great and the wind's in our hair and we've got the radio up and we're singing along to our favorite song. And smash-o, we drive right into a snowstorm. Not literally, but figuratively. And all of a sudden we have this complete 180 of seasons in our lives. And we're left wondering, well, now what do I do? Why did this happen? And what the heck do I do with this dropped in my lap? Because I was not ready for it to show up. I was happily cruising along in my summertime, and all of a sudden it's winter, and I don't want to be here. But I think it's time. It's a good time to take a step back when that happens and look at what it might be making room for, especially if that change happens out of the blue and it happens pretty drastically or quickly. And I think that's one of the hard parts too about these changes, these seasonal changes in our lives, because when it comes to the weather, we not only know what to expect weather-wise, but we also know what to expect from nature and from the things that, surround us. If you're a parent of a kid who plays sports, a lot of times the seasons mean different sports. We've got soccer in the fall or soccer all year because there's travel soccer, or fall ball for baseball and spring baseball, softball, whatever it is. But whatever's specific to your own kids, kind of what comes and goes. But also when we think of spring, we think of beginnings, of growth, of rebirth. Things start to bloom for the first time and the world is waking up. Summertime means things are flourishing. There's lots of energy. There's lots of abundance. Berries bloom and we can pick fresh fruit. And then autumn rolls around. It's a time to let go of things. The leaves around here fall and drop. So it's a good reminder to me to, hey, let go of the things that don't serve you anymore. And don't worry. The leaves grow back every year. They're not gone forever. So it can kind of symbolize a transition. And then the winter, like I said before, is kind of some rest and some stillness and maybe even some unseen growth, because you have time to sit back and look at yourself and kind of reflect on what's going on and make some internal growth that's really good. But in terms of what's going on in our lives, we don't always know what each season is going to bring. And that, I think, sometimes is what pulls at us and tugs at us, because we as people don't like the unknown, right? We like to know what's going on. We don't like when things are unexpected. We don't like surprises unless it's for our birthday. So when we don't know what's coming and we don't know what season to expect next, we get a little anxious or a little apprehensive, and we're like, we don't want to do this. I just want to stay here comfortable, cozied up with a good book by the wood stove in the winter season of my life. I don't want to get launched right back into spring when all of a sudden I'm supposed to be growing. I want to hang here for a while. So I think there's a little bit of worry and maybe anxiety that surrounds that, but I don't think it needs to. And we get wrapped up and worried that we have to always be on our A game and we always have to be doing and go, go, go. And this is the rat race that I fell right into. And if you've listened to any other episodes or follow me on social media, you will know that I am on this beautiful walk backwards from being burned out and worn out. But one of the things I remind myself of, no matter what the season, is that nothing in nature blooms all year, so why should I have to? I am always looking for ways to improve myself and better myself, and that's not what I mean by blooming. But I also understand that part of bettering myself and part of being a good and well-rounded person who feels good about my life and who feels happy and fulfilled and balanced is giving myself time to rest, giving myself time to read, giving myself to have an extra cup of coffee while I stare out the window and watch it snow and do absolutely nothing else but chat with my kids. All that stuff is part of growing as a person. So you don't always have to have this big, bright, brilliant bloom for the whole world to see all year long. Sometimes it can be that growth underground. Lots of perennials. There's a beautiful thing about them, and if you know me too, you know I love to grow stuff. The beautiful thing about perennials is that even when they go away and their blooms fade and their plants fade, underground, even in the wintertime at the base and below the surface, they're growing roots and they're growing deeper and they're getting some good hardiness ready to push forth back up when it gets to be spring. So don't worry about that constant bloom all year long. Just worry about being you and working towards a version of yourself that feels really fulfilled and happy and balanced and proud. And like I said, that doesn't mean you stop working on yourself. There's always room to work on yourself. But there's so many different levels of work you can do. They don't have to always just be the big flashy ones that everybody sees. Because we struggle with a lot of things, right? We resist change as people. We don't want to change. We've always done it this way. We like doing it this way. We are creatures of habit. And that's an okay thing. And we fear endings too. We're sometimes with the ending of a role somewhere with a organization or a relationship or a job or a routine, when those come to an end, we grieve that a little bit. And we say, well, I don't want this to end. I wish it could keep going. I wish it could last longer. And that's understandable for sure. But unfortunately, sometimes it just needs to end. So I don't want you to fear the endings. I want you to embrace them and learn to walk through them instead of trying to figure out how to avoid them, because sometimes they're inevitable. In comparison, I've said this before too, I think everybody on social media, and with this kind of platform or voice has said that comparison is the thief of joy. When you compare, you watch others thrive. All these people are out doing these big, flashy summertime things. And you're in your winter season, and you're like, no, I'm not doing the big flashy growy thing right now. I'm not doing the big bloom firework thing right now. I'm hanging out quietly and doing some internal stuff to make sure I feel good about myself and feel grounded and balanced and like I'm not going to go crazy. And that's okay. Everybody can be in different seasons at a different time, but don't compare yourself to the other people, because one day when you are out and you're flashy and doing stage and things are going great for you and you're out there performing and making these big changes that people can see outright, you don't know what the other people are going through, right? So we don't want to compare, because comparison just brings you to a real bad place. And there is a nostalgia trap too, and be careful falling into this, because I have done this too, where you romanticize the past seasons of your life and you think about them. You're like, oh, but remember when this and remember when that, and it was so great. But when you do that, you miss out on the gifts that are happening in your life right now. And you say, oh, but it was so good when. I remember college. I remember high school. I remember my other job, my other relationship. I remember my other friendship. Whatever it is, there is an endless list of things we can romanticize with nostalgia. But the idea is, if you do that and you try to live within those, yeah, it might be fun in the moment and it might be fun for a few minutes, but you're going to end up missing out on what's right in front of you. So I want to encourage you to embrace the season that you are in. And here's a reflection question for you. Ask yourself right now as you're listening, what season of life are you in right now? Are you trying to plant seeds during your winter? I mean, is that what you're working with? Is that something you're struggling with? Because if you are, now is not the time. And what does this season want from you? I want you to check in with yourself too. We check in on all kinds of people, right? Our friends, our neighbors, our loved ones, our spouses, our kids, anybody, our coworkers. Whether it's in person or with a text or a phone call, hey, how are you? Are you doing okay? What's up? What does your day look like? Tell me what's going on in your life. But we never ask ourselves that question. So I want you to ask, what does this season of your life want from you? What do you need? Do you need stillness? Do you need some kind of risk to make you feel a little bit wild and a little bit, on edge? Do you need celebration? Do you need surrender? Do you need change? Do you need compassion? What do you need? Ask yourself that question and give yourself time to answer it. Don't think about it for 30 seconds and then jump up to send the text message you forgot to send last night. Think about it and let it wash over you, because when you explore that idea and you give yourself an actual answer, man, really great and beautiful things can happen. And if you're someone who journals, you can use this as a journal prompt, right? You can do something like, what am I learning right now that I couldn't learn in another season? And write about that. Or what did I learn in the previous season of my life, and what do I hope to learn going forward? And please know, and please learn to accept the rhythm, right? This is not forever. This season is just for now. Every organization, every friendship, whatever you're involved in, every season and stage of your life will have some kind of rhythm. And the rhythms go back and forth, and they come and go, and they ebb and flow a little bit. But you can find that rhythm and understand it's not forever. You won't always be in this growth stage where you're trying to hustle and break out of something. Eventually, you'll be in the stage where you're like, wow, this is going really great. I'm going to sit back and enjoy the fruits of my labor and kind of enjoy the moment of where I am right now. And that's a beautiful thing. And more importantly, well, not more importantly, but as important as asking yourself how you're doing, please remember to surround yourself with people who understand where you are, not just where you were. Surround yourself with people who understand that you want to change or grow, or maybe understand that you want to hang back and grow internally, or understand that you just need some space to think and figure things out. Whatever it is, I have a slide in one of my PowerPoint presentations for one of the talks I give. Slide is called Surround with the Same. And that means surround yourself with people who understand what you're going through, and also who understand your ambitions and your ideas and your goals and what you want to work on, and that you're living in this right now, and this season isn't forever. But don't surround yourself with the people who just always want you to revert back to that quote-unquote person you used to be. Oh, you were so much more fun when you drank. Oh, you were so much more fun when you were dating this person. Oh, you were so much more fun before you took this job. You were so much more fun before you were always worried about your image. Whatever it is, you were so much more fun when you still drove that other vehicle. I don't care what it is. There are people who will try to drag you back to that place. But surround yourself with the people who understand where you are now, not just where you were. And when a season returns, reflect on how certain lessons or dreams or identities, I want you to think about how they do come back to you, but they have evolved in ways that you sometimes can and maybe sometimes can't explain. Because when a season returns, you can think, wow, this is great. Didn't ever think I'd be back here again. Or you can think, wow, what a beautiful time to be back here with this chance again to keep working on this opportunity, and look at what you think it has taught you since it's come back around. Compare the old season of X to the new season of X. And so maybe, you stopped doing, a certain job, or you stopped being involved in a certain organization for a certain period of time. And all of a sudden now it's time to step back into that role, and you can come back even stronger because you have taken your previous experience from the first season or the previous season. You've taken your period of rest in the middle, and now when the season comes back around again, you're going to be stronger and better and happier and more resilient and more productive. And that's a really beautiful thing, right? Because old passions can certainly resurface. And when they resurface, I have found they usually resurface with a new maturity. And I think that's a really good thing. And also, one thing I want to touch on just for a second is that there can also be micro seasons. You can have little micro mini season inside a week, inside the same relationship, inside a certain job, and that's okay too. Every job, when it's a new job, is new and unknown, and you have to learn a little bit. There's a new person that started near me at work. They sit a couple rows over. And the other day, I heard his supervisor talking him through all the things, like, here's what we do at the beginning of the day, like, here's when you take lunch, like, this is what you can do for lunch, like, here's what your day is going to look like tomorrow because you have X on your plate and you're going to work with this person the next day. And so within every job, within every relationship, within every task, within every role in an organization, you will have these little micro seasons too. And don't forget to look at those and remember what they have taught you. And also look back at those and see how far you've come. Because on your 51st week of a new job, when it's been almost one full calendar year, I promise it is much different than it was on your first week, and you can celebrate that. Celebrate how far you've come, the things you've learned, the things you don't have to ask about anymore. So don't forget to honor those little micro seasons within each kind of segment of our bigger seasons. And, burnout too, you guys know I speak about burnout. Seasonal burnout is a real thing. And obviously some people hate the winter because it gets cold and it gets dark. But seasonal burnout, when it relates to your life too, you need to recognize when you're ignoring the seasonal shifts and pushing through when we should just maybe pause a little bit. Recognize when you're just trying to smash ahead and say, I want this season to end. I'm going to just push through it as quickly as possible because I don't want to be here. And sometimes that's not good. We can't do that. You'll end up burned out and depleted and angry and frustrated because sometimes we can't force things to change. We can't force the clock. We can't force the calendar. So sometimes you might just have to take a step back and be like, you know what? I don't need to rush. I'm just going to pause at this point in the season. I'm going to let whatever plays out, play out, and then I will keep walking forward slowly to get back to where I want to be. And again, that is perfectly okay to do too. So as you listen right now and as we wrap up, I want to encourage you to do a couple things. One, I want to encourage you to think about what season you are in right now. And if you want to leave a comment on the podcast or shoot me a message on social media or via email to let me know what season of your life you are in, I would love to hear from you. And I would love to maybe use it as a topic to kind of talk about something someone brought up or a certain season that maybe brought up some big feelings or some unknowns in your life. And I would also like you to embrace what this time is offering rather than rushing it away. I know that some seasons are better than others. I know that sometimes we wish we could go backwards in time because we liked the previous season better. I know my dad hated fall because he liked summertime when my brother and I were home and we were making hay at the farm and we were there and we were busy and we had friends over and the farmhouse was busy because we had friends over and there was other friends in my family that came to help with hay and farm chores and all that kind of stuff. So I know Dad hated fall. But he didn't actually hate fall. He just hated the change that meant that my brother and I weren't there anymore and the house got super quiet. And my mom was the same. She hated the empty nest stuff that happened. She used to say, God, it's so quiet when you and your brother aren't here, when you don't have friends over, when you don't have people here. It's so quiet. But they didn't hate the season. They just didn't like the change between the two. And then I want you to ask yourself, what's one way you can honor the season you're in today, right now? What is it that you can do? What action can you take? What moment can you have? What thought can you think and put into practice that will help you and honor the season you're in right now? Because let's be serious, it's going to change before we know it. I said at the beginning of the episode, I just packed up the rototiller and washed it and put it away, but I feel like I just took it out and put the snowblower away a couple weeks ago, when in reality it was months and months and months ago. So what is it that you can do to honor the season you're in today? How can you be mindful of what your body, what your brain, what your heart, what your soul needs, and how can you walk forward and honor that? And when you think of that, give yourself time to come up with an answer, and then please put that into practice for yourself. Give yourself the permission to either sit with the things you need to sit with, or think the things you need to think through, or take the action you need to take, call the person, work on the letter, work on whatever it is in your life you want to get better at, whatever it is. Whatever the season of your life needs from you right now, never, ever be afraid to do it. Always give yourself permission to work on it and find time for it. And whatever you do, never, ever stop believing in yourself. I appreciate you listening so much. If this has resonated with you, I appreciate it. I would love to hear from you. If you think there's a friend of yours or someone in your life who could benefit from this, please share the episode with them. Thank you, as always, for your support, for listening, for your contributions to this podcast to make it possible. And as always, I hope you enjoyed the message and have a fantastic day.
Thanks for tuning in to Todd Talk. If you've liked what you've heard, please go ahead and subscribe and follow along so you don't miss any updates or new episodes. Thanks very much and enjoy the rest of your day.